some of whom are identified in your order of service. One left out from last year is the activist, anti-war activist Kathy Kelly. There were his, what are some of his enduring accomplishments? There were his always entertaining, sometimes perplexing sermons. Furthermore, during his ministership, Reverend Wheat and the church initiated numerous Austin neighborhood efforts. One continues today with the Austin Scholarship Program under the direction of Roberta Wilson. She's up in the back. She doesn't want to be identified. It provides, the Austin Scholarship provides stipends to worthy Austin high school graduates for over 3 decades. During Reverend Wheat's tenure, the church provided a space for a large daycare center in the Robeson Room, and that still goes today. It gave a home for a neighborhood grade school with about 50 students located in a building across the street and it was called the Learning Network. Reverend Wheat stayed at the helm in the midst of a fractious schism in the church in the late 1970s, and subsequently he was instrumental in putting the church on solid financial ground with an endowment investment plan. And with Reverend Wheat's encouragement, church services intermittently and often entertain notable progressive speakers from here and abroad. Dr. Benjamin Spock, you may remember, Senator Paul Simon from Illinois, the mother of Emmett Till, or the grandmother of Emmett Till, the granddaughter of Eleanor Roosevelt, Bernadette Dorn of SDS, members of the Chicago Eight, which while they were being tried for sedition after the Democrat convention. The late Dr. Quentin Young, and so on, many to name several. And for these reasons, Third Church now recognizes Reverend Wheat's past leadership with invited speakers like Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. Dr. Dyson has been described as, quote, a street fighter. Street fighter. Okay, speak loud. I don't know if he wants me to say this quote. He's been described as a street fighter in a suit and tie. And the Essence magazine has named him as one of the 50 most inspiring African Americans. He was born and raised in Detroit and became an ordained Baptist minister at the age of 19. 2 years later, he entered Knoxville College and then moved to Carson Newman College, he can explain that, in where he earned a bachelor's degree, magna cum laude, in 1985. He then was admitted to Princeton University, where he obtained his master's and his doctorate in religion. He's taught at a plethora of august academic institutions, actually. The Chicago Theological Seminary, Brown University, Rhode Island, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Columbia University in New York City, DePaul University in... Where's DePaul? I'm from Loyola, so I have a right to do that. And the University of Pennsylvania. Since '07, he has been a full professor of sociology at Georgetown University in our nation's capital. That locale inside the Beltway places him quite close to the subject of his newest publication, one of about 14 remarkably diverse books, actually, with several winning some key national awards, which is the subject being President Barack Obama. And Dr. Dyson will be signing and selling and then somebody else is selling his newest book in the atrium during the coffee hour after. So I can't fail to end the introduction with a second quote from Dr. Dyson, which reminds me of some words by President Obama, spoken either before or after Dr. Dyson's, which is, quote, "I don't believe in that kind of American John Wayne individualism where people pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Somebody changed your diapers. And if that's the case, you ain't self-made." Join me in welcoming to Third Church's Tom Payne pulpit, named incidentally for another street fighter in another age, Professor Michael Eric Dyson.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for that rather rousing introduction, Dr. Collins. Appreciate that. I want to thank the Reverend Dr. Professor Wheat for this wonderful lecture series, for living the life after which it is named, and for making such an incredibly important intervention in the name of the best humane values of our society. I want to thank Dr. Collins for his persistence in getting me here to Chicago. It took all kinds of machinations, but he was resistive to any no. And of course, it was an honor then and still is to have appeared at this great church where this great man of faith, man of the cloth and of the neighborhood, did such remarkable work for us to warrant recognition of his incredible commitment. And as we look around our society now, to see all the craziness that's going on, we're even more desperately in need of the sort of leadership that the Reverend Wheat provided. So we thank God for his leadership, his lovely family, his son and daughter, and perhaps others are here. And it is an honor for me to stand here again after the bloom of youth has certainly passed. And the creeping cynicism of middle age has taken root. But I am grateful for this opportunity to talk a bit about Barack Obama. The Black Presidency is the name of my book, so my lecture, according to your website, is Black Presidency, the Legacy of Obama in Post-Racial America. So I'll ruminate on that. I'm going to cut you all some slack. I am a Baptist preacher. I usually talk for 3 hours. But I'm going to give you a break. I'm going to talk for 2 hours and 59 minutes here today. But just a few minutes I want to reflect on this particular passage of Scripture, and that is known as the Holy Writ from the secular arena. But what's interesting is that often when I'm in churches, they thank me for my lecture when I thought I was preaching. So maybe I've been a Unitarian Universalist all along and did not know it. There are other signs as well, but I won't talk about my radical skepticism in the face of Baptist orthodoxy. We are fellow travelers, to be certain. But when we think about the Black presidency, we think about the American presidency. Some people find it unnecessary to modify that noun with that adjective. Why say Black presidency? Why not American presidency? Well, Barack Obama has forever marked the American presidency by his black body. And if it's not a big deal, how come it's the first time we've had it? It's a big deal because in America we have struggled toward the recognition that all human beings should be acknowledged as equal citizens before the state, and certainly under the auspices of God. That being the case then, why is it that it took so long for us to come as a nation to the decision that a person of color, in this case specifically a black man, could lead us forward? It's like people who love Dr. King now. If we loved him so much, why was he murdered? We live in a culture that can't really live race in real time. Retroactive is better. Nostalgia and reminiscence are far more amenable to our own process and time schedule because it's hard for us to face it as it occurs. We live, after all, as Gore Vidal said, in the United States of amnesia. And I feel safe quoting Barbara Streisand here this morning when she says the words of, or sings the words of Paul Williams, "What's too painful to remember, we simply choose to forget." Now, thank God I'm not in a congregation that demands a coda filled with Taylor Swift. Although Beyonce's album dropped last night and I stayed up late looking at every bit of it. Lemonade, it's that great. But I digress. The reality is that we live in a culture that is constantly, clamorously looking for the opportunity both to invest in the deep and profound memory of selective ideas and to avoid others. Can't get enough books on Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, not enough on the founding fathers or the founding brothers or the founding mothers, but when it comes to issues of race or gender or class or sexual orientation, or more specifically, grappling with black identity in America, you people get over that. We've had enough. Oh my God, oi, do we have to hear that again? Tirelessly seeking more information about the things in which we feel rightfully and justly invested, and yet resistant to those ideas that might challenge us. And so Barack Obama is the manifestation of a long, tough battle to make America hew more closely to the ideas that it ostensibly says underwrites the American experiment. We are, after all, in a nation where we believe that all people, regardless of, or as the brothers in the street say, irregardless. That's belt and suspender. We want to make sure you hold that proposition up. That regardless of your race or your class or your ethnicity or your sexual orientation, that you can be treated with respect and dignity by the state and by fellow human beings. And yet we know that ain't been the case. And so the black presidency is necessary for that adjective to modify that noun, because in the grammar of American democracy, there have been too many pauses, too many commas, too many periods even, imposed externally, when indeed the glowing reality of truth that those paragraphs ought to warehouse have been undermined by our attempts to resist the application of that freedom to everybody. So Barack Obama, your home guy from here in Chicago, became the nation's first black president. An extraordinary man, from central casting almost, if Cecil B. DeMille was looking about for another Moses. Maybe Francis Ford Coppola for The Godfather, who knows. Maybe the 40th anniversary of Taxi suggests yet a different director. The point is that this man didn't live the typical black life or American life. Mama, white woman from Kansas, daddy, black man from Kenya. The mayor of London called him Park Kenyan the other day. He didn't say that in a nice way. Not in an ethnically articulate, multicultural way. It was meant to reinforce his marginal status, to remind Europe that an African was at the helm in America, and therefore to be suspicious. We know how these games are played, plausible deniability. Oh, of course I didn't mean that. Cockney accent notwithstanding. A little dig there, but we understand. And so Barack Obama was himself a marvel of multicultural reality. Didn't grow up on the west side of Chicago or the south side, in Hawaii, the well-known bastion of black identity and hood credibility. Keeping it real, son, I'm from Hawaii. Let me get this lay on. So what's interesting is that here's a man from the very beginning who already contains the elements of such interesting, enterprising, multicultural, multiracial realities. And then as he struggles as a biracial young man to claim his rightful destiny in America, he is obviously experimenting with what it means to be black or multiracial or biracial, to be part white and to be part black in a nation that is uncritically celebrated and worshiped at the altar of white supremacy. Now, what we mean by white supremacy is not individual white brothers and sisters who invested in an idea. We're talking about the conscious or unconscious belief in the inherent superiority of some and the inferiority of others. Simple as it is. And the genius of white supremacy is it doesn't demand anybody be in place to run the machine. It's self-perpetuating. And so it doesn't need the assent of bigoted individuals. This is the problem with race in America now. We go, I'm not racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body. The muscles are pretty tough, though. Of course you don't have a racist bone in your body. It is not about your conscious assent. It is about the structural forces that perpetuate a legacy of inequality that don't demand your individual participation. Thus you are let off the hook in terms of your personal animus, and also you are not compelled to deal with the structural realities that prevent the flourishing of human ideas in the midst of a culture that detests black bodies. Kills them with rapacious and criminal indifference to the livelihood of people of color. The fact of which motivated Reverend Wheat to work so hard and to build so brilliantly communities that would pay attention to the necessity to engage this rather rancorous, controversial, but necessary issue of race in America. So Barack Obama emerges, and I tell white brothers and sisters, if you don't like this black man, ain't a black man been made, you're going to really dig. Hey? All the white folk complaining about Barack, you ain't even seen the real brothers. Or when you saw them, you couldn't take them. People wonder, well, why doesn't he get more angry? You can't take Cam Newton on a football field dancing. What you gonna do to a president exercising power as the most powerful figure in the world, as the occupant of the White House is said to be? Obama scares people, even as nice as he is, as genial and affable a man as he is, as sweet-natured as he is, as, yes I can, as he is. He ain't mad, he don't raise his voice often, he ain't beating folk up, rhetorically or verbally. He naively believes he can help Republicans who hate him. He wanted to be post-partisan, right? He wanted to be post-partisan. Bruh, get off the marijuana, medically, that you used to smoke years ago. Non-medical variety. He believed in this to the degree that he would go out of his way to placate not only white liberals, but white conservatives while damning his own African-American fellows, brothers and sisters. That's why he's in London yesterday giving praise to gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual people, as he should. He praises them for pushing him to the right way, but he's got to throw a shot at the Black Lives Matter. What is the psychology of wanting to appear to white brothers and sisters throughout the world as being able to keep in place the rather aberrant but sometimes aggressive impulse toward justice that you can acknowledge is true, but you always have to give it a shot to keep it in line, to let them know that you know that they need to be held to account, but never a word that is disconsolate spoken toward real bigots who challenge the legitimacy of you to even be a citizen, much less to be a president. Every internal group has it, Jews with Jews, Italians with Italians, Poles with Poles, the Irish with Irish. When your own folk do it, it's worse than when somebody else does it. Then those groups don't feel the necessary compulsion to prove to the larger world that they are holding each other in check. That's what I love about some of these white ethnicities from Eastern or Western Europe. Ain't no need in white America to prove that your whiteness is a burden or a deficit, but there is a need in white America to prove that that blackness will not challenge the legitimacy of democracy, and therefore it must be curtailed. Just giving you a little bit of the moral psychology behind the choices that seem to be race neutral, that reinforce a vigorous stamp of disapproval from the first black president. Yes, he is the first black president and so many good things have happened, but this is the first generation to be scolded internationally and globally by a black man who was in charge. That is disparaging in its own way. And disingenuous to be sure as well. Because what happens when you only scold black folk is you act like the white folk don't need no scolding. I teach them. I knows they do. Just like everybody else. But it ain't like there are no moral reprobations, perturbations, and idiosyncrasies being unleashed in the collective white imagination. It ain't as if black folk alone deserve to be told about things they need to do. If you can't tell it to white brothers and sisters, and you can't because you're a black man who is not seen as legitimate, so you have limited moral ability to excoriate them, then don't do it to black folk either, because you make it look as if they're the only ones who need it. And we know that Obama wasn't pushed on the gay. We knew he was already there. He just couldn't say it, right? Because you pay attention to politics, you pay attention to the weather vane, the litmus test, the benchmark, the bellwether. We know you believe this stuff already. I got pushed, the Holy Ghost helped you. The Holy Ghost name was Joe Biden. The wind bloweth where it listeth, where it will, the Bible says. Yeah, that's Joe. Full of that air. I love him. He's just going to put you on Front Street. What the hell, of course. Of course we got to take care of the gays and the lesbians. And then Obama's like, oh my God. Now he's got to come out the closet. Politically. I'm making no news here this morning. Then he gets forced to do the right thing. Well, why is it then that you feel it necessary in many ways to deny a kind of connection to the very people whose support, 97% the first time around, 93% the second time, put you in office? A curious thing that many white people miss. They don't even see this. This is internal machinations. This is inside baseball. Many white people, oh my God, I never even thought about it that way. Standing up, lashing against black people. He went to Newtown, and in his White House, when he signed an executive order, he was crying. You remember that tear the other month? He'd gone to Newtown. He said it was the worst day of his presidency. You can't cry where you don't go. How about in Chicago where those kids are dying too? How about in places where young people of color are mercilessly murdered? And he went to Newtown and he lamented what happened because he and Eric Holder were there, but when he came finally to Chicago at a meeting with young people, he began to talk about family values, family structure, as if a present father might have stopped the infusion of guns that are readily available. The young white man who murdered all those people in Newtown was the product of a broken family too. But never mentioned by the president of the white family is going to hell in a handbasket. The pathology of the white familial structure. Miley Cyrus is one of their heroes, my God. Just see the subtlety of the politics that are being played. From this great figure, is he great? Beyond belief. Is he an amazing figure? Without question. Will he go down as one of the great presidents we've ever had? I think so. He'll be like the black Ronald Reagan. I was there. I was like, dude, that was not the president I remember. I don't know. Ketchup is a vegetable. I don't know if you heard the brother. Now there you go again. I lived through Reaganomics. Wasn't that great? But now, oh my God, hear it told, he walked on water. Obama will have a similar trajectory with more dessert, I think. First year in, he saved the banks. What was he going to do? I know those of us who are leftists and progressive. Reverend Wheaton and I were speaking earlier about feeling the burn. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. But if you got a car, don't put it in cruise control. And if you play card games, don't always be Trump type. Now me, I've given up eating Colonel Sanders and chicken. So I don't know what that leaves. Sometimes the best man for the job is a woman. But what's interesting... But we on the same team, Pastor Wheat and myself, right? Because if Bernie wins, I'm rolling to the end with him. I hope the Bernieites can say if Hillary wins, they'll go too. Don't lend religion to this. We're not electing a Messiah. All these people are limited. And so, when we think about American politics and where we are in terms of race, yes, Obama will be reread as a great figure. How could he not save the banks? Can you imagine the headlines after the first black president is elected? First Negro allows banks to collapse. Forget the first term. He can't make it out the first week. Right? He saved the banks. He saved the American economy. When he came in, George Bush was bleeding jobs. This man has preserved the fabric of the American economy. They have had unprecedented growth in such a comparable period. He bailed out the automobile industry when Mitt Romney said, let it sink. And he gave us health care. Is it the health care we wanted? Ideally, of course not. But you got to deal with what you're dealing with. That single payer, all the stuff we wanted wasn't available. These folk don't even think Obama is American, much less human. So that was an achievement within the context that was remarkable. But what he's done on race will not win him the plaudits as one of the greatest ever. Barack Obama is the Shaquille O'Neal of presidents. Now, for those of you not versed well in basketball, you know Shaq. Big old 7'1" black man, very powerful, dominant, brilliant basketball player. Earned his doctorate recently. The big Aristotle, as he calls himself. He was a great ball player, one of the most dominant centers ever. Some say, I don't know if he's dominant as Wilt, dominant as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, dominant as Russell, but one of the most dominant ever. But he couldn't shoot free throws. And at the end of the game, he was a liability to the team, risking their win and making them more vulnerable because he couldn't shoot free throws and they would deliberately foul him, called the Hack-a-Shack. Hack-Shack. Put him on the free throw line and make him lose the game. Obama is Shaq. He's dominant in so many areas. When it comes to race, he can't shoot free throws. He's hesitant. He procrastinates. Now, a lot of black people don't like me talking like this. I'm like, God. That's why not many amens from black people in here. You would think with a Negro speaker, there would be Negro support. But hell no, not this morning. I get it, I understand. This is my white time this morning. This is white time this morning. Because it's tough for black folk, and I understand. You know why we don't like to criticize Obama? Because he's the only one we got. Right? White people are bored with presidents. My God, which one is it? I don't know. Andrew Jackson, Johnson, whoever. Reagan, Bush, we've had them all. Black people, who's our president? Obama. What was the first one? Obama. What was the last one? Obama. What's the one for a while? Obama. And then white people say, well, he's half white, you know. So now we got basically a half a brother. So black folk are real sensitive. Sensitive. We don't be talking about Bay and Boo. That's a shout out to the black folk in terms of vernacular, but don't worry. Don't mess with our guy. Don't mess with Bill, or in this case, Barack. Bill, he's open season. So what's interesting is that Barack Obama, of course, evokes the broad sympathy and love for black people. We love how he walks down Air Force One with that kind of swag. And we love how he speaks, talks, enunciates. We love how he slips effortlessly into vernacular and code switches. We love how when they showed a tape on YouTube of him speaking to Kevin Durant in the locker room, Kevin Durant, the great basketball player for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He speaks first to a white coach. Hi, how are you? Fine, how are you? Then the next one, hey, how are you? Hey, bud, hey. Then Kevin Durant, what's up, bro? How you doing? Little inside stuff that we like. The greatest black man ever to live in public housing. Finally, Section 8 has sexiness. And white racists hate him so much, want to kill him at an alarming rate. The death threats against him so stunning that it's difficult to be balanced in our critique against him because the hate is so real. Though that recognition has not similarly inspired him to give us a break because we are similarly attacked too. So the very black people who demand a kind of loyalty to Obama don't demand a reciprocal one. He ain't the only one catching hell. Right? He got bodyguards. He can talk much smack. Well, yes I can. Obama becomes the representative of black people become the proxy for Obama. Can't kill him, kill us. What do you think the spike in numbers about police brutality are about? Yes, they're about the loosing of police authority. They are about the retrenchment and rearticulation, recrudescence, even renaissance perhaps, of a kind of racial animus and hostility toward blackness that manifests itself with lethal intensity. That's true too, but it's also about a displacement theory. And in the age of Obama, the irony, the paradox even, is that under the first black president, the rash of killings of black people by the police spike. The young white man in South Carolina who killed all those folks said in the church, you people are taking over. He ain't pointing to nobody but the president. Ain't nobody else taking over. We taking over prisons. Oh, there's a lot of us up in there. We running big time up in there. Prisoner of the year, another black man. Hyper-incarceration, mass incarceration, unjust incarceration for the same nonviolent drug offenses that white young people are hit on the back of their hands and told to go home. Young black and brown kids are put into detention, which feeds into jails, which becomes a feeder system to prison. And so this has not compelled the president to be equally empathetic to those whose backs are against the wall. It is a curious phenomenon to live with the first black president, an extraordinarily intelligent, convivial, wonderful human being who is also bordered by racial restrictions that lead him to play racial procrastination and racial hesitation. Yeah. If, as his critics say, he leads from behind in foreign affairs, he's doing the same thing with race. Other people do it first, and then he catches up to it. And I'll tell you the tragedy with that. Race will be spoken about. You need to decide if you're going to be the one who speaks about it. And if you don't, others will. Ask Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump becomes a floating metaphor, signifier for a lot of stuff. He's easy prey. Let's hit him then. But Donald Trump is the manifestation of Republic. Oh my God, what have we created? You are what you have created. Frankenstein was the name of the doctor, not the monster. So you done did this. You stood by the side while the leading candidate for the Republicans now, stood for years to denounce Obama as a legitimate American citizen, questioning his grades. For real though? You, Donald? Well, my uncle was at MIT. Oh my God, your uncle? You're not a scientist, rocket or otherwise. You're a genius at what you do. You can stir stuff up. The Republicans stood on the side and let that sideshow occur. Now the sideshow has become the central show. Now the sideshow and the circus have become the major affair, the pageantry of Republican ideology, and that demonology directed toward others has now boomeranged on it. And so now they're trying to figure out a way to contain the Donald. Dump the ideology that promotes Donald, hating Mexicans and Muslims, demonizing people from Central and South America. It ain't the Puerto Ricans and the Mexicans and the Nicaraguans. It's the Republicans. And so Barack Obama, as Shaquille O'Neal, was a liability because he was hesitant to speak about race. And when he did, he said things that were curiously at odds with a progressive engagement with a dis-ease and a structural reality that needs to be addressed. And he knows it better than most. He wrote one of the greatest memoirs on race and identity in America. I'm almost done, but for me, when I think about the incredible power, symbolism, and significance of this first black president, when I think about the enormous good that he has done, it is to be celebrated. But not at the expense of telling the truth about the consequences that have been untoward, that have flowed from his reticence and his hesitation, his procrastination, and his willingness to chide his own. Now, that's an old tradition. Jesse Jackson up the road's been doing it for 40 years. But he balances it out with something else. He's telling dominant society, get your foot off the neck of black people. Even as he goes to black people and say, don't tell me what the white man is doing, what are you doing? That's a balance. Obama sees one side of it as necessary, not the other. Might he have found a way to be critical of gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual people in London? Of course. They've been hyperactive on some fronts in terms of act up, in terms of being vigorous and articulate about their resistance. He could have equally mentioned them. What is it about the psyche of this black man that disallows him at a critical level to embrace black people with love, a love they need at a time when their bodies are at stake and their futures are imperiled, even by policies he has put forth in the last 8 years, 7.5, that have not helped them significantly. Not significantly. Under Obama, the black unemployment rate is still twice that of white unemployment. That's pretty standard for any president. And yet, black unemployment spiked to 14.3%. Not a word from the White House. Obama believes in a rising tide lifts all boats, but I said to him in the White House, I said, sir, if you go to the emergency ward, you don't get medicine. If you got a hangnail, you get aspirin. If you got diabetes, you get chemo. If you got diabetes, you get insulin. If you got cancer, you get chemotherapy. Medicine, like public policies, work best and most effectively when they are directed toward the ills they are meant to relieve. I end by saying that this beautiful and powerful black man, bound to, in one sense, be displeasing to some group, made the choice that he would spend much of his capital trying to convince the Bill O'Reillys of the world, the Mitch McConnells of the world, the John Boehners of the world, that he was really basically a good dude, while stepping on the people who believed it already. And so Such are our politics. Bound to disappoint, of course. But even within the realm of what was achievable, our president has done extraordinary things, but also failed in a noticeable fashion. And that beautiful conundrum, that simple and elegant and yet profound paradox that it is, as Dickens said, the best of times and the worst of times simultaneously, has not escaped this era. It is not a post-racial one. Post-racial often means post-black. Been there, done black. Thought we were over it. Elected a black president, what else do you want? I don't know, justice. Right? When Hillary Clinton if Hillary Clinton becomes president, Title IX ain't gonna go away, or it should. Sexism is not destroyed. Rape culture is not undermined. She can't even escape getting treated with sexism herself. If Bernie Sanders, my man, gets all cantankerous, oh my God, he's beautiful. She doesn't, she's a shrew, but she's hollering. Why is she hollering? John Boehner cries. Orange is the new black. John Boehner cries. Oh my God, what an exemplification of profound masculinity, being vulnerable. Hillary cries, there's no crying in baseball. And so, my brothers and sisters, this remarkable man, this great president, did not lead us to a post-racial nirvana, for there should never be one. Many white brothers and sisters think they're doing you a favor. I don't see race. Oh my God, really? We gotta get your prescription checked, though. You know? The only people who are colorblind are those people who dress poorly. Come on. I don't want you to get beyond my blackness. I want you to get beyond what you think about my blackness. I can't stop being black. I've been majoring this for 57 years. I can't choose another major in college. This is it. I don't want to stop being who I am. I just want people stop imposing their obstacles, impediments, and their narrow, hindering foci, their negative viewpoints on what that is. Let's learn to love and embrace each other. I don't want to pretend you're not a woman. I don't even see gender. Look, dog, I do. I am for every sexual orientation in the world. However, my inveterate heterosexism permits me a set of lenses that need to be cleansed every now and again, but certainly understands and appreciates the felicitous differences that obtain in sexual divergence. Let me leave it like that. So, if that's the case, don't stop being gay or lesbian or transgender or bisexual or female or black or Latino. Stop being a bigot about them. Right? And Howard Thurman said, as I end here, Howard Thurman said, a bigot is a person who makes an idol of his commitments. Stop worshiping your commitments and see the truth before you. And allow the fresh discourse of and the new rhetoric of, and the beautiful language of possibility. American, democratic, small d, radically just, enlightened, because some of us are proud of being unmolested by enlightenment. Allow that to be at the heart of our existence. And then, when we appreciate each other, it is not in the denial of who we are, but in the full affirmation of the range of identities we bring to bear. That's why I love this first black president, appreciate him, admire him, but hold him accountable as well, as we should, so that we can extract the best from what has been given to us in this era. Thank you.
We have a few minutes for questions, and I'm sure there may be some. And I guess I need some help from one of the Third Church people. to pass it around. Do we have any questions over here?